Okay, so I've just heard a new spin on these heresies. You know, like I said, the Protestant church is famous for spinning off heresies every day, maybe even every hour, and it never stops. So here's a new one. Is it someone just declared that there are two men inside of each one of us. Christians, only the Christians. The non-Christians only have an old man. The new Christians have the old man and the new man. Yeah, that's what he declares. And he says the old man is sinning even now, but the new man cannot sin. And he's saying, First John's talking about the new man. Well, John doesn't say that. It's a secret to John. John does not talk about two men. And I'm sure he's going to say, oh, yeah, he does. It's walking in darkness, walking in light. Because he says we. Oh my gosh. This is the illiteracy that creeps into the church because of the illiteracy of our cultures. The church used to be the place where you get your education. You went to get your education. You first learned the Bible. I mean, you learned how to read and write, right? And you learned logic and you learned the Bible. This is a literary device. It's a hypothetical we. If we choose to walk in darkness, then this. If we choose to walk in light, then this. That's what it's doing. It's not two things doing the same thing, because then they negate each other. Because what? The one doesn't have truth and the other one does? And what are you? What are you? Oh, the old man's going to be done away with, when we get our new bodies. Well, hold on. If we get our new bodies, then what is this new man? You talking about the soul? There are two souls? I'm glad you said that, because I've got you on that one. Romans 7 and Jacob 1, aka James 1, are talking about the same man. Not only that, Paul in 1 Corinthians completely obliterates this idea that those two men can live together in a Christian. Jacob says it's not a Christian, and Paul is saying it's not a Christian in Romans 7, but the Christians who insist on sinning and want to justify it with theology have taken that out of the context of chapter 8 and chapters 5 and 6. If you read 5, 6, 7, and 8 all together in one sitting, you find out 7, you absolutely see crystal clear. 7 is talking about a hypothetical person, not Paul himself. When he says, I. It's like John saying we. It's a literary device. It's like when the nurse comes in and says, how are we feeling today? She doesn't mean we. She means you. It's a literary device. Okay, so let's talk about it a little bit. Let's first talk about that verse in 1 Corinthians that destroys this idea that the old man and the new man both are alive at the same time. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, the old has gone, the new has come. End of story. If you claim that the old and the new are there, you're not in Christ. Paul says so. If anyone is in Christ, if anyone is in Christ, if you were in Christ, if you were in Christ, and if you were in Christ, the old has gone, the new has come. Period. End of story. If the old has not gone, you're not in Christ. And that's validated in Romans 8:1. I'm saying these from memory because I've memorized these. So Romans 8:1, a lot of your new modern Bibles have cut off the end of that verse because they're built on what's called the eclectic text, which is where each scholar makes their own text of the New Testament in Greek, saying, I don't like this verse in this manuscript. I'm going to take this one over here. And I don't like this one here. I'm going to take half of that one and then, we'll throw the rest away. And they just piece together a text that is some sort of monstrosity like Frankenstein. And every one of them has their own. is horrible. So that's how you ended up not having the rest of that verse on there. But in most of the manuscripts, it's there. So it goes like this. There's therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And yours ends there. But mine, and the King James, and the original text defines what it means to be in Christ Jesus. There's therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, who walk not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. They don't walk according to the flesh and according to the Spirit. No. And what does Paul say? He says, put to death. Put to death that way. And he says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live. How can you claim there are two men living in Paul? Christ lives in Paul, period. So that also testifies that Romans 7 is not talking about Paul. Paul is talking about a hypothetical person who thinks he's a believer. He recognizes the law and that it's good, but he can't stop sinning. That's you guys. He's describing you in Romans 7. Romans 7. I can't stop sinning. The members of my body are warring against me. I know the good that I should do, but I can't do it. And he ends it by saying, who will save me from this body of death? He doesn't even really know Jesus. Because he says, who will save me? He doesn't even know. Who can save him from this body of death? That is not a Christian who has been born from above. No matter how much you say, I've been born again, it doesn't make you born again. You can keep saying that so that you belong to the club, you're a member of the club. It doesn't make it real. And if you're born again, it doesn't mean you're born from above. It doesn't. Where did Jesus' authority come from? Well, you have to read the end of John 3 to find out, because all of John 3 is about above, all of it. From when Jesus starts in verse 7 by saying, unless you are born from above. He doesn't say again. It cannot be translated again. It's born from above, period. It's an adverb. It means from above. It doesn't mean again. It means from above. It has ana in it, which means up. It's not again. And as you get to the end, you see, it's talking about the serpent raised up in the desert, right? Well, the serpent's up on the pole, and so their salvation is coming from above them. They have to look up to it. And Jesus says, just as that was, so must the Son of Man, be lifted up. So our salvation is coming from above us also. There's this above, above, above. You get to the end, and it's talking about the authority of Jesus came down from above, and that Jesus himself came down from above. The whole chapter of John 3 is about from above. You can't get around it. And if you're born from above, then the old is gone. The new has come. You've been crucified with Christ, and you no longer live, but Christ lives in you. You no longer govern your own life. Now we're into Jacob 1. Because he talks about the man who governs his own life. He says he's like the agitation on the sea that's tossed back and forth by the wind and then thrown flat on his face suddenly. That he should not even think that he will receive anything from alongside God. His prayers are useless. They're ineffective. He's a two-souled man with two sets of intentions, two sets of emotions, and two sets of thoughts. And each of the sets war against each other. He's unstable in all he does. And that's the man that Paul describes in Romans 7. He's unstable. He even says so. He says, I know the good that I should do, but I cannot do it. Because my hand wars against me, my mouth wars against me, my eyes war against me. And I can't fight the battle against them. I lose. And immediately after Romans 7, Romans 8:1 says what it is to be in Christ Jesus. There's no question about this. Only for those of you who are trying to justify your sin while remaining in the club, because that's how you see it. So, that's done. Now you know the truth about Romans 7, and now you won't be deceived by these people who are spinning off new heresies to try to justify remaining in their sin. You've got to be born from above. The old man has to die, and you have to have the new man, and you must be crucified with Christ, and you must not live, and you must let Christ live in you. That means God governing everything in your life, not you. That's what it means. Every action, every decision, every thought. Let God guide those. Let Him take over the control of governing your life. And be in Christ Jesus. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.